Welcome into college football week 12 over here on Power 5 Picks brought to you by Better and Green. I am here with Ethan diving into the college football slate this weekend. Ethan, how are you? I know last weekend was a pretty crazy week in the SEC. I know college football has been a struggle for us in our actual betting, but our show betting has been doing great. So again, we say this every single time. Trust what we do on Thursdays when we record. Don't listen to us later in the week when we really think about it. These are usually just our gut plays and minimal research, and it's been doing really good. But how are you? And how you doing heading into week 12? Can't believe it. Week 12 college football.
Yeah, it's almost coming to an end here, which is probably a good thing for me because it's not been a good year. I actually did not have a single college football bet all day Saturday, probably the first time in my life. Was just busy running around with some friends, didn't have service to get onto all the apps, and by the time it was all said and done, just never really had the chance to place a bet. So going back looking at the results, I probably would have had near a break even day. So no harm, no foul. But um, yeah. That being said, I don't love the picks this week. I'm gonna be busy again on Saturday up north hunting with no Wi-Fi. So who knows if we'll probably go out for these games. I'll probably be able to bet, but not a week that I'm super crazy about. The first game we're talking about here is probably my favorite play, but um, yeah, looking forward to another week of football, obviously, but really need to turn the ship around and we're running out of time.
Yeah, that's pretty bold of not having any bets placed with friends, and I'm assuming a little drinking involved. I usually go overboard when I'm with my buddies, and especially when booze are involved, to start hammering bets, and usually that doesn't end up. But I forgot to quickly recap it. I believe I have my first 4-1 weekend. Uh, that brings my record to 32 and 26, or plus 3.4 units if you're taking every bet to win a unit here. My only loss was the frickin' frauds of Oklahoma. I don't know if you guys saw the ending of that game. It was a fumble six to seal it for whoever Missouri, I believe.
Yep.
Disgusting. And that was one of the big legs of my round robins. Would have won close to 1,000 in that on that bet. But yeah, 4-1 for me. And Ethan, you finished a positive 3-2. I don't think you've had a single negative week in our 12 weeks of college football. Your losses were as mine, Oklahoma, and then you were on Georgia to cover against Ole Miss. But again, your record on here is something that needs to be studied. You're 36, 20, and 1. Again, every bet to win a unit, you would be up 14 units at the beginning, since the beginning of college football, if you've been tailing Ethan's picks on this show. So again, we're both profitable. Ethan is on an absolute roll right now, and I'll send it to you for your favorite, supposedly your favorite bet of the slate we're talking about. We have number 22 LSU traveling to Florida. LSU is a 4-point road favorite. Over under is 55. Who do you got in this SEC matchup?
Yeah. This is like you said, like I said, my favorite play that we are talking about today. I like Florida plus the points. I like them straight out. Um, just don't see how LSU gets up for this game. They had their third loss of the season last week against Alabama, got completely blown out, and with that loss goes any chance of them of making the college football playoff, which you have to assume that was their goal coming into the year. Um, so this is the letdown game. They finish off with Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, all just unranked teams. Um, this is their only road game left on the schedule, but just don't know how they pick themselves back up off the mat after losing to Alabama. They lost two in a row now, so you go back um, 3 weeks. They were looking, like they had a good shot to make the college football playoff, and then two losses. Now their season's over. So no way I could back LSU. I see they are an extremely public team as of right now. But yeah, getting Florida at home, who, yes, they're off two losses as well, but that's Georgia and Texas, both on the road. You're not going to fault any team in the country for losing those two games back to back. They have LSU, Ole Miss, and then end with Florida State. Really, at this point, 4-5 on the season. They're just looking to make some noise, mess up some other teams as well. So with LSU still being in the top 25, I think Florida's going to want to put a third straight loss to them, and I think they do it. So I'm going to take the 4 with Florida as my most confident play that we're talking about today.
Yeah, starting off on the same side here, I'm on Florida as well, plus the points. Yeah, basically everything you just said. Florida does have a possibility of making a bowl game. Like you said, they finish on Florida State. If they can't win that game, they probably don't deserve to be in a bowl. Then maybe they can rattle off one win here in the next two games between ranked LSU and then ranked Ole Miss. But yeah, I think they're absolutely playing spoiler. And LSU, I think the morale is sucked out of that place. Kind of the similar situation LSU's been in for the last couple years, ever since they won the national championship. They just have been close, but really not that close. Florida has, like you said, played a lot of ranked teams. Lost to Texas, lost to Georgia, lost to Tennessee, lost to Texas A&M, lost to Miami. Those are five very solid teams. They just can't win the big game, but I do really do think they're going to get up for this one. I think they have a legit shot, like you're saying, to win this game outright. I like them plus the points. Probably won't get there on the money line, but I'm looking to get involved on Florida here on the spread, like it quite a bit. Let's move to one of the weirdest lines, and it is our only ranked, or sorry, we have two ranked matchups. This is our first ranked matchup. This is at 4:15 on Saturday. It's number 23 Missouri at number 21 South Carolina. South Carolina, sitting at 6-3 on the year, is a 14 and a half point favorite at home against 7-2 Missouri. Missouri is what we should call it. I guess, take this one first. This is absolutely disgusting. Um, I mean, Missouri squeaked out a win against Oklahoma. They, squeaked out a win against Vanderbilt. They squeaked out a win against Boston College. They lost to Texas A&M. They lost to Alabama. Those games weren't even close. Then you got South Carolina here, and I just don't know what to think about these guys. They lost to LSU by 3, lost to Alabama by 2, got smoked by Ole Miss, but then they beat Oklahoma, A&M, Vanderbilt as well. Ugh, it's got to be South Carolina on the spread, but I'm just going to take it a little safer, I think. I'm going to go the under here. I'm going to go the under of 43 points. I really don't want to get involved on South Carolina's spread, even though I do think that it is the correct play. Missouri can't score. Missouri has somewhat of a good defense. South Carolina only has a rushing game. If Missouri can stop the rushing game, I have a really hard time seeing points being scored here. So I'm going to take the under, but I do think the sharp play is probably going to be South Carolina on the spread, but I do think that line's getting up there to being almost unbettable. But yeah, I think the under is going to be safe for me. How about you?
Yeah, I don't love this game, but I'm going to lay it with South Carolina, and I'll keep it fairly quick. The 14 and a half point spread is pretty telling to me. It looks super easy to take the better uh, or the better record Missouri Tigers here, plus over 2 touchdowns. Um, as they're off that win against Oklahoma, but probably didn't deserve to win the Oklahoma game. I don't believe Brady Cook is back, starting quarterback for Missouri this week. At least the line would tell me that. And really just think these two teams are kind of headed in opposite directions right now. I think Mizzou is going to be a bet against team the rest of the way, and I think South Carolina is kind of here to stick around for the next 3 weeks into bowl season as well. So yeah, the line is telling. You got a really good defense with South Carolina. I think they're going to hold Missouri to not a lot of points whatsoever. I mean, I wouldn't even be shocked if it's like 10, 13 maybe. So, yeah, I think South Carolina puts up enough points to cover the spread. I don't hate your under whatsoever. There's no way I'd look at an over. Yeah, and South Carolina's last 3 wins, 7 allowed to Vandy, 20 to Texas A&M, 9 to Oklahoma. So defense is looking really good for them. I'm going to ride it at home. Fishy line. Give me South Carolina minus 14 and a half.
Yeah, I do think that is the right betting side. Moving on, again, we kind of handpick what we think are the best games of the weekend. So this one might not sound that great, but we did think it was worthy of talking about. This is at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. This is between Arizona State and number 16 Kansas State. Kansas State is an 8-point favorite at home. Over under is 50. Both teams are 7-2. Kind of hard to believe Arizona State's up there, but they've had a pretty solid year so far. Haven't really played anyone, haven't really lost a whatever. Yeah, their schedule is not the greatest. And then, Kansas State's number 16. But two fairly solid teams based on their schedule and their record. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, again, another game I'm not in love with, but I'm going to lay the 8 with Kansas State here. Again, the line is just a touch fishy to me. You know, teams with the same record, and you can grab over a touchdown with Arizona State. That sticks out to me. And then, Kansas State is off a bye. They lost their second game of the season before that on the road against Houston. You got to believe during that bye week they buckled in, said we cannot lose another game. They still have a major outside chance of making the college football playoff, but still technically alive. So I f- I assume they use that bye to good use off of that second loss. Arizona State is off the, I believe, come from behind win against UCF. Yeah, like we talked about before, I was out drinking and not watching this game at all, but I do believe UCF had a big lead and then let it go. Um, but then also you look at Arizona State's schedule. Yes, KSU is ranked, but they have BYU on deck, undefeated BYU, which I'm not so sure they'll be undefeated by the time they get there. But you have to imagine Arizona State would love to be that first team to give BYU a loss. So touch of a look ahead for Arizona State, fishy line. Kansas State off the bye. I'm going to lean Kansas State minus the 8 points.
Yeah, we're gonna defer here. I'm gonna take Arizona State on the spread, but I probably will get involved on Arizona State money line. I think this is a game Arizona State's gonna win out right here. Um, Again, very scrappy team. No one expected them to be 7-2. Their two losses are to fairly okay Texas Tech, bad loss against Cincy. They beat Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State. Nothing super crazy there. And then Kansas State, very similar. They're number 16, but they really haven't played anyone either. They lost to BYU, who we're going to talk about shortly here, lost to Houston, which is really bad loss, beat Arizona, who's bad, beat Oklahoma State, who's bad, beat Kansas, who's bad, had a decent win over Colorado. Um, but again, nothing super surprising here. I don't really know how they're 6-2, probably because they just haven't, or number 16, probably just because they haven't really lost a whole lot of games. Seems a little overreaction there. And then Arizona State does have their pretty good little back. He was out against that UCF team with the shoulder sprain. I think he's going to be back. Scataboo or whatever his name is. He's pretty fun to watch. Little white guy, maybe half black. I don't really know what he is. Lighter skinned guy. But he's pretty fun to watch. He leads the Big 12 in all-purpose yards. I think Arizona State just is that scrappy team. Again, 7-2, not completely dead to play for a Big 12 championship game. And I think they're going to do just that. So I'm going to take them at the +8. I will be sprinkling Arizona State money line potentially in a round robin if I do get involved this weekend. I think that's a great round robin leg just for some extra added value. And I'm not super sold on Kansas State. So we'll see how that game shapes up. Moving on to the game of the day, game of the week. I believe probably the host of College Game Day. This is number 7 Tennessee at number 12 Georgia. Georgia is a 9.5 point favorite despite being 5 ranks lower. Over under sitting at 47.5. Georgia coming off a loss to Ole Miss, pretty embarrassing loss there. And then Tennessee has one loss on the year, which was to Arkansas. They are 5 points, 5 point loss to Arkansas away from being a perfect 9-0. But again, really haven't played a whole lot of guys. Their best win is against Alabama, which is looking better and better each week. They beat Kentucky, beat Oklahoma, beat NC State, who was ranked at the moment, but now is a miserable team. Then Georgia is a really weird team. Lost to Ole Miss, lost to Alabama, but then beat the number 2 team, I believe, in the country, Texas, and destroyed Texas. They beat Clemson as well, beat Kentucky at Kentucky. So I think the line is telling in this one. I'm going to take Georgia on the spread. I'm going to trust that they get right. They did get left out on the college football playoff committee, just like they did the last year. I think that really, it's still a little early, but I think that hit home with them, and they realize that if they continue doing whatever the hell they're doing, they're going to be left out. So I think it's go time for Georgia. I think they get right. I think their quarterback, who even though I really don't like him, I think he gets right. And I just think Georgia is going to take it to Tennessee at home here. I think it's going to be potential bloodbath in this one. So I'm going to take Georgia on the spread. Not in love with it, but I think it's a must win for Georgia if they want to have any contention at the postseason. Well, yeah, if they lose, they're done. So
Yeah.
that's how it is. But yeah, I think Georgia rolls here.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And this is my yeah, if Florida's 1A, this is my 1B. I like Georgia quite a bit. Everything you just said, the only things I'll really add here, well, you mentioned the line is fishy. Yeah, 8-1 Tennessee, first place in the SEC, catching almost two scores, two full scores, the touchdown and the field goal. So, yeah, I think the line is fishy as could be. And you look at Georgia's schedule here, they finished the year 2 home games, UMass and Georgia Tech. So, you know, unless something absolutely insane happens, this is the final game of their season. They get this win. They send Tennessee to the same record, 8-2, and now they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Tennessee. So yeah, I'm going with the experienced head coach, the experienced team who's been there, done that. You mentioned being left out of the playoffs last year. Fishy line, no one left on their schedule outside of this game, at home, off the loss. What would this line be had they gone out and beat Ole Miss? I mean, we're probably talking closer to 14 points. So I think Georgia wins. I think they cover. I think they win by, yeah, 2 to 3 touchdowns. Um, yeah, if Florida's my favorite, this is definitely my second, but those two are probably interchangeable. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, again, I do think it could be a great parlay piece, potentially in the money line if you don't want to get involved on the spread. I don't advise teasing in college football. There's just too many variables, in my opinion, but it might not be a terrible money line parlay leg there. Again, probably don't take too many parlays, but I just have a really hard time seeing Georgia lose this game. And then finally, the fishiest game of the day, of the week. And we always with this freaking BYU team. They are number 6 in the country, 9-0, hosting 3-6 Kansas. BYU is just a 2.5 point favorite at home. Over under is 56.5. Now, Kansas is off a win against ranked Iowa State, who we have talked about Iowa State quite a bit. Don't really believe they're the team that they were. I believe that's 2 losses in a row, if not 2 out of 3 losses in a row for Iowa State. Um, then BYU escaping a terrible game against Utah, came back to win that with a field goal. A couple debatable calls there. You can check out the videos on that one. Utah's AD got fined like 30 grand for shitting on the refs and arguing with the refs post game. So there was a lot of controversy in that game. I believe that is the Holy War too. So a little bit of a rivalry game there. But BYU just keeps escaping, and there's always these fishy lines that I always find myself on the wrong side of BYU. Um, but I wouldn't be true to my name if I'm taking them on the most obvious line of the day. So I got to go Kansas, taking them on the spread. Hopefully Kansas wins outright. Again, I do think they have the studs to do it. They just cannot win any games. They're 3-6. They're really struggling this year, but they do have the studs. This team was ranked preseason. They were in the 20s, and then things just collapsed. But BYU is not a 9-0 team. BYU is not a 11-0 team or 12-0 team, whatever they're going to be. They're going to lose one of these games. I think it's a great opportunity for Kansas to play spoiler once again, and I just got to take the ugly, ugly line.
Yeah, I hate it, but I got to be on BYU this week, which I almost never do. But really, it is kind of the recency bias. The BYU escapes that game against Utah last week. Kansas gets the ranked win. They played K State close the week before that. Got a win against Houston. So maybe, public comes in and thinks Kansas might be turning it on late. Um, but yeah, I just BYU just keeps squeaking it out. I think I mentioned last week that BYU is just kind of like Washington last week, where down the stretch I just faded Washington. Um, I had a huge play on Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Just could not get those games right. Just trying to pick the spot where Washington was going to lose. Kind of been doing the same thing with BYU, literally from week one. I think I faded them, or maybe week two. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna lay the short price with BYU here. If Kansas would have lost last week, and if BYU would have taken care of Utah with conviction, we're probably talking a 5.5 here. So yeah, it's gross. It's not a play that I'll probably end up making. I don't love it by any means, but I'm gonna roll with BYU one more time to win and cover this one.
Yeah, and again, guys, make sure you do probably tail Ethan's play as he has on the show here. He has yet to have a losing week, 12 weeks in. You might actually, I don't think you did. I think you've always had a winning week with your worst record being a 3-2. And again, Ethan is up 14 units on Power 5 picks this season. So he's absolutely on a roll from we record on Thursdays, on his Thursday predictions of the weekend. But again, if you do want to check out our bets before kickoff, we do post all of our bets over on Twitter. Our usernames are right below our icons here. We also do have our NFL show coming out. We do have our hockey show, our NBA show. We have MMA. There is a big fight. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Ben and Bobby got a video of that coming out. I will say, with the holidays rolling around here, with Thanksgiving and whatnot, our schedule might be a little sporadic. So, for example, our college basketball, NHL, and NBA show, we might not be as consistent of a schedule there. But if we get a video out, make sure you just tune in. Those ones are really quick, 5 to 10 minutes. Giving out our best bets for that day. But unfortunately, the schedule isn't good enough in college basketball to have a consistent schedule, and then NBA, NHL are kind of taking the back ride to these bigger. Obviously, it's football season, so we want to cover all the football. So apologies for not getting a whole lot of content out there. There will be more coming shortly. But Ethan, do you have anything to add before we sign out here?
Yeah, just the last thing I'll say is, the weekend lives have been kind of few and far between with holidays, travel, things going on. Um, like I said, I'll be gone this weekend, so no weekend lives. Maybe a Sunday if I get home in time, but I wouldn't count on it. But yeah, we're trying to get as much content out to you guys as we can with the lives and the pre-recorded videos. So we would love the subscriptions, the comments, the likes. We really do appreciate it. It helps us keep making these videos for you. But I hope everyone has a great weekend and make some money in college football.
Yeah, a couple more weeks left to start making money in the regular season, but it's going to start amping up when we start talking about playoff games, bowl games. It's our first ever 12-team playoff. So Power 5 picks is just getting started. Hopefully we can continue to win some money for you guys. We appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. Hopefully you guys make some money, and we'll see you in the next episode.
You better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out, that's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover all spot from the bottom to the top, hey. Shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome, welcome to our podcast, Better in Green.